Continuing our reading in Ragweed and Poppy by Avi, today is chapter 26 and 27. Chapter 26, Poppy in the Trap. From within the trap, Poppy watched Susan leave the room. Feeling better and stronger because of the cheese she had eaten, she examined the room with new energy. What she observed was a table, some chairs, a couch, plus a fireplace, along with a nearby pile of cut wood. Most importantly, Poppy saw that the window and door of the house were open. She decided that if she could get out of the trap, she'd be able to bolt away and get free of the house. Using two paws, she worked hard to pry open the bars of the trap, but as before, her efforts proved useless. Nonetheless, she also struggled to push open the flap at each end of the trap. That too proved as impossible as before. Discouraged, she sat back. "It's stupid," she scolded herself, "to keep doing the same useless things. I have to try something new." Susan came back into the room. She was holding food in her hand. "I've got it for you," she said, "from my breakfast." She held it out so Poppy could see it. For a horrible moment, Poppy thought the girl was holding the body of a mouse. Narrow and gray-brown, it was some 3 inches long, the color of her own fur. After sniffing, Poppy realized to her great relief it really was some kind of food. The girl sat down on the couch. "It's a sausage," she said. She leaned forward and pushed the sausage against the trap holes, only to giggle. "Stupid of me," she said to Poppy. "It's much too big. How am I going to get it into there to you?" As for Poppy, the mere thought, though wrong, that the girl was holding a mouse completely took away her appetite. She retreated into the furthest corner of the trap, hunkered down, and watched the girl. Susan, in turn, studied the trap. After a moment, she set the sausage down and tried to open the end flaps. She could not do it. "I'll get Mom or Dad to open it," she said, and bounded up, saying over her shoulder, "Be right back." Poppy, watching the girl go, tried to figure out what was happening. Perhaps, she thought, it had something to do with the food and opening the trap. "If the girl opens one of the trap doors," Poppy told herself, "that might be the best and only moment to get free." Susan returned. "They're parking the car," she said. "After we look at that house, we're going on our picnic. I'll ask if you can come." She sat on the couch again and continued to study the trap. "You know what?" she said. "I better shut the doors and windows in case you get out. I don't want you to run away, ever." Poppy watched with disappointment as Susan shut the windows and front door. Then the girl came back and continued to study the trap intently. "Oh," the girl said suddenly. I see how it works now. There's a hook that keeps the trap door shut. I bet I can open it. Then I can feed you." Susan knelt down in front of the low table and put both hands around the trap. Poppy watched her every movement. Using one hand, the girl managed to flip over the bar hook that kept the trap door locked. Then, with her other hand, she wedged her fingers under the trap door and lifted. Both of her hands were fully engaged. It also meant, Poppy suddenly realized, that in that moment, the trap was open. At that instant, she shot forward, racing as fast as she had ever run in her life, out through the open end of the trap. Once free, she raced across the table. When she reached the table's edge, she gathered all her strength and leaped. The girl screamed. Chapter 27. What Lotar also did. As Lotar sat in the meadow, gazing at the blue box and the strange people, he heard the girl scream and realized it came from within the pile of logs. Whatever it was that the people were doing by the big blue thing, they stopped instantly, dropped everything, even leaving a hole in the blue box, and ran into the log house. Delighted that the people had gone, Lothar waddled out from under the bushes. Cautiously, he approached the shiny blue box. What, he wondered, was it for? He was also curious to know what those creatures had been putting inside it. He drew close to the box's side and stood up on his hind legs, but was not tall enough to look in through the open window. Even as he tried to see inside, he heard a noise behind him. Startled, he glanced back over his shoulder. To his absolute horror, a gigantic snake was coming out from the bushes. The snake was coming directly toward him. Terribly frightened, Lothar hardly knew which way to go. The blue box was right in front of him, blocking his way. But the hole was there. He looked back. The snake was still coming. It was his fright that gave Lothar extra strength. Using all of it, he leaped up and forward, only to tumble down inside the box, landing on a seat. Still panicky, the raccoon pulled himself up and looked out the hole through which he had fallen. The snake was still coming. Lothar searched for an escape. He turned. In front of him, it looked like nothing. But when he reached forward to touch it with his claws, the space turned out to be hard. Good, he thought. That makes this that snake can't come in, get me that way. Turning, he saw a big wheel sticking up, and near it a bunch of buttons. Since they looked interesting, Lothar scurried over, stuck out a claw, and touched one of the buttons. When he did, all kinds of different colored lights flashed on. There was even a loud roar, and the blue box shook. Delighted, Lothar touched the button again. The roaring stopped. The lights went out, followed by a few loud clicks. Lothar had no idea what it all meant. Wanting to see the lights again, he pushed yet another button. That time a piece of that hard see-through stuff began to rise. The hole through which he had come into the box closed up. Puzzled, Lothar studied the clear, hard thing for a moment. He even went over to it, but when he poked it a few times with his claws, he realized that though he could see through it, it was solid. The snake would not be able to get in. That was good, but how did that hole close up? Well, was it something I did? If it's hard, how come I can see through it? There were, he now realized, more holes in the shiny thing. The trouble was all of them now had that solid stuff in them. But, he told himself, that means there's no way that the snake can get where I am. I'm really safe, really safe. Except that was also the moment that Lothar realized something else. Yes, the snake was outside and he was safe inside, but he had no idea how he would be able to get out. What if those large people returned? I know, Lothar told himself. I'll hide. Maybe after a while the holes will open again and that snake will be gone. With that, Lothar wiggled off the front seat and to his delight found a dark, empty space under it. He crawled deep within and after making himself as comfortable as he could, curled in a ball and shut his eyes tight. Closed eyes meant he could see no danger, which was a good thing. In moments, he was asleep. And that's the end of chapter 27.